Hello. Welcome everyone to Real Chat with Kat, a podcast dedicated to offering a growth mindset platform where we entrepreneurs talk about business, mindset, and life in general, while sprinkling a little bit of tips, tricks, and practical ways you can grow in your business. I'm your host, Catherine Polsinelli, owner of Agent Services Plus, a consulting company focused on helping you build and grow in your business. So grab a cup of coffee or your favorite beverage and get ready to have some awesome conversations with some great takeaways and ahas. So let's dive in. So I have the Mr. Tyler Gibson. So jealous right now. I would love to be where you're at right now. So introduce yourself, give us a little bit of background. I know that it looks like you got into investing before you even got into real estate, right? Which is kind of cool. So tell me a little bit about it.
Yeah, so my name is Tyler Gibson. I'm a full-time realtor and real estate investor here in Orlando, Florida. And we're sitting in my backyard today. I've got a little bit of a tropical paradise going on behind me. So it's warm, it's hot, it's muggy, but otherwise it's really good. So I started my real estate journey and kind of entrepreneurial journey started when my wife and I bought a rental property probably about 8 years ago now. And I really had no idea what I was doing, but it was a behavior that I had seen modeled by some people in my life. And so I just moved forward with bold action, not knowing what I didn't know and all the pitfalls that could come from trying to invest in real estate. And I got lucky, I think, in that I actually did buy a great deal, but my analysis was certainly subpar. And it wasn't until I got that first rent check and I was like, this is the best money I've ever made because it didn't cost me any time. Then I realized I was all in. I had to figure out how to make more of this kind of income. And I just really dedicated myself to learning more about real estate and how to analyze deals and how I could acquire more property. Now I was broke, right? I had spent all my money to buy a property. I wanted to figure out how could I buy more and what could I do to do that. So just started getting involved a lot in educating myself, and then was able to acquire 4 units later on by partnering with some people, and then another 2 units. And then recently this last year, we acquired a vacation rental property on the beach for lifestyle asset and family vacation spots. So, but got my real estate license about 3 years ago with the intention that I would get access to more data and I could find more real estate deals for myself and for my family. And, if I sold a house here or there, that'd be great, but it wasn't really the intention. And then I just, because of some of the work that I had done in the past, was able to start connecting with out-of-state investors, started servicing them, and was able to turn it into a full-time job. And now we run a small team here focusing on real estate investments in Central Florida.
Which I think is fantastic. So tell me a little bit then too, for anyone that, isn't familiar with investing or it's maybe something they're thinking about doing. How did you kind of go about working with partnering with some of the other people, right? Because I know a lot of people, especially even us that are in the real estate, like that's normally like one of the next steps, like, right, is when I can buy an investment property. But I feel like a lot of people like, well, you have to have all of your money set aside in order to do so. So did you guys have a different way of handling that, or that you guys kind of approached?
Yeah. So, I think I've been fortunate in that I have some family that has some means, they have some capital. And so the first house that my wife and I bought actually as a rental, I actually had a family member finance the purchase, right? Because I didn't have a ton of cash, but it was a pretty good deal. And so they were willing to actually be the note holder on the property. So they actually financed the deal. And so because of that, I was able to get, pretty good financing terms because it was private money.
Yeah.
And they were willing to kind of help me out to get started. And so that's what we did there. And then when the next opportunity came along, I pitched it as, okay, so you see that I bought this rental and it's working and you're making money through that. How about you partner with me? We'll buy this, we'll fix it up. We can refinance out and get you your money back at some point, which we have yet to actually do, but that's been a benefit to us. And I can explain why.
Okay.
But basically I went into that agreement with, I want, a small equity percentage, and then I might take a cut for management or something after that. And then later on, we were able to renegotiate it to actually, I'm a 50% owner in that project now.
Wow.
But that's because I spent a lot of time and effort, and I became boots on the ground, the hustle, and they were the muscle. So that was kind of how our partnership came about. And then we were able to acquire another duplex basically under the same principle, 50-50 partners. And so we do it that way. But
That's super awesome. Okay, so then tell me why is it kind of a good thing that everything hasn't been paid off on the investment with that?
well, so there's two reasons why. First of all, we converted it to a long-term note. So we converted all of the money that's been invested now across the 6 units that we've acquired in partnership as
Mhm.
long-term debt against the property. Now, the 50%, my partners hold that debt. So they actually get a mortgage payment paid to them every single month, right? So they have long-term passive income, 30 years worth of payments that they're going to receive, right?
Okay.
Because they put cash into this deal and they're going to receive, I think we're paying them 6% interest because they're partners, but they get 6% on their money for the next 30 years. So to them, it's a great passive income stream. Additionally, they own 50% of equity in the company. And 50% of the revenue that's generated or profits, I should say, are theirs. And so they also get that aspect. The business gets to write off the interest we pay them.
Okay.
So it's a tax benefit then to me and to a point to them because we can write that off as a tax deduction. And at the end of the year, our real estate holding company actually shows a deficit. So as somebody that wants to pay as little taxes as possible, I'll pay as much as I need to. If anyone's listening, I will certainly pay as much as I am required to, but I don't want to have to pay any more than I'm required to. So we're always looking for ways that we can use our money in a smart way where it will grow, but
Mhm.
also create as many benefits to keep as much cash in our pockets as possible. And real estate is a proven asset type that can do that for folks because pretty much any cost associated with the ownership of that property is essentially a tax write-off. Your actual, principal pay down is not, but the interest that you pay, the taxes that you pay, the maintenance that you pay, all of that is a tax deduction. And then you can also depreciate the asset itself to gain additional tax benefits by saying, well, that house is now a year older, it's worth years less. And you can do that for 27 and a half years.
Wow. Okay. I didn't know that.
You can accelerate it too. I've not done that before, but you can also accelerate the depreciation. And when you accelerate the depreciation on a property, you can capture that tax savings much, much quicker.
Okay. That's interesting. Yeah, I'm still learning. I feel like even though I've been in the business for several years, I'm still learning about all the tax benefits and things like that, right? And I feel like, any agent getting into the industry, I feel like your first year, like you have no clue what you're doing or what, unless you've been in, some type of business like that before, right? Of all the different things you can use to write off that you use within your business. I mean, I didn't realize the first year that I could take the interest on a credit card if the credit card was specifically for my business and write that interest off in the first of the year. Nobody talked about that. I mean, unless you're asking really specific questions.
Yeah.
I feel
How would anyone know to even tell you something like that, right?
Yeah.
It's almost like someone should create a here are all the tax benefits course and they just go through it, right? It might take them days, but I didn't know that either. I just learned something new. I don't carry balances on my credit cards, so I don't pay interest because that's just not part of my business practices. I will gladly pay interest on real estate. I typically don't pay interest to credit cards.
Totally understand that. I do not recommend that to anyone, by the way. We're not saying go into debt so you can get your tax write-off. But for those in the beginning, because if you think about it, a lot of us getting into real estate don't necessarily have a huge pile of cash to liquidate, to put into building your real estate, right? And so a lot of us do get into debt with getting started. And if that is something that, you do have to, at least you can do it in a smarter way so that you can benefit, reap the benefits later down the road. So tell me, because you said you work with investors that are in Florida. What does that kind of look like being on the real estate side now instead of being the investor? How do you help people? How do you work with them? What does that kind of look like?
Yeah, I mean, it's not It's not terribly different than helping a homeowner, somebody, a first-time home buyer or somebody that's looking to buy a new house or something like that. The overall process for looking for a home is relatively the same. The conversations that we have and the motivations are totally different. And I think that's the biggest thing. My clients don't have a specific timeline typically. Every once in a while, they're doing a 1031 exchange, in which case they do have a specific time frame that they need to fit into. But otherwise, they're not necessarily looking to move in a particular time or make a purchase in a particular time. What they're looking for is a good opportunity. And so you have to look at real estate from a different perspective. You have to ask different questions and uncover the true motivations, right? Because beyond the fact that they've told you their goal is to buy an investment property, okay, why? But why? Like, why do you want to buy an investment property? What is the underlying motivation for why you think it's a good idea to do this? Sometimes that's, well, I don't like my day job and I want to start building passive income so that I can quit my day job and do more real estate investing stuff or travel the world or whatever their goals are, right? And what their time frame is to meet that goal, I think is really important. And then some people, it's, oh no, I love my job, but I want to diversify my portfolio and I want to reap the tax benefits, or a lot of high income earners invest in real estate because it's a great way for them to reduce their tax burden. And so you have to understand what some of those underlying motivations are so that you can give them good guidance, and more importantly, so you can try to find them that opportunity that's going to match what their ultimate goal is, right? They might tell you that they want something that's 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 2-car garage in downtown Orlando, but if they also tell me they want to get $300 a month in positive net cash flow, I can immediately tell them, okay, well, that's not going to work, because I understand my market well enough to know that deal that they just told me they're looking for doesn't exist in that market. Now, I might be able to find it in this other city that you don't know anything about, but I do because I'm local and I've got expertise.
Yeah.
So that's been a big key for us, is truly understanding what the motivations are and then asking smarter questions as we meet with them or talk with them for the first time, trying to understand, and really also trying to gauge how experienced they are. If they're brand new, it's going to require, we're going to need to give them sets of front end, and it might take a little bit longer. If they've done 20 deals before, well, then they need a different type of agent. So so that's kind of how we work with them. But I primarily just try to add value to folks. And, at the end of the day, every conversation is, I just want to figure out how I can help you. And if I can help you, great. And if I can't, then I'd love to be able to connect you with someone that can.
Yeah, definitely. So then, if you're dealing with somebody that's new, how much, hand holding do you guys have to do in that process? Or do you have other people that you suggest they go speak with or talk to in the beginning? How much are you involved in that? Because I honestly have never done anything within the investing side. So
I at the very outset, my intention is to understand whether or not they understand how to underwrite a deal, right? Do you know how to do your own property analysis? Because while I will certainly go over the analysis that you've done for yourself and maybe point out any errors or omissions, I don't furnish a prospectus, right? I'm not selling securities. So I don't typically send you a deal analysis tool that's all filled out and say, we have some like that, but it's very rudimentary and I make no guarantee about it. It's informational purposes only, is essentially what it comes down to. Okay. So every person that is going to invest needs to understand how to underwrite the deal, how to determine whether or not it's a good deal, how to do the math per se, and then measure the results of the math up against their risk tolerance and their goals, right? If you're a high income earner and you need you need more tax write-offs, you might be willing to pay for buy a property that's only going to give you a small return, where you're going to be able to reap the benefits of the depreciation and the tax write-offs. But if you are living paycheck to paycheck, that's probably not a sound investing strategy for you, because you don't have a buffer if something goes wrong. You need that property to have really good margins and to have good safety nets So you need to be saving and allocating funds for repairs, maintenance, capital expenditures, the big ticket items that might come up, right? A new roof, a new AC system.
Yeah.
Those are big expenses. If you're a high income earner and you probably have enough cash in the bank that you can cover that cost, right? And so you can be more aggressive with your analysis and not have to save as much. But if you're, if you're living on a budget already, then that property has to 100% pay for itself. Plus, you want it to pay you a little bit every single month because you're trying to build income and momentum to maybe get out of that, job that you don't like as much. So, it's just trying to have those conversations and understand where's the investor at? Do you need to analyze a deal together and give them like best practices for developing a system where you're acquiring assets that are generating positive net cash flow every single month because you're trying to increase your income? Or is it really just more so you need to be a facilitator for somebody that doesn't have enough time and they don't want to put in the work to do that kind of analysis, right? So,
yeah.
But mostly we're local, and that's our benefit to our investor clients, right? Because a lot of them are out of state. And so, they want to know, is this a good area? What is the market doing? What are market rents like? And so we have access to data like that, and we can educate them. I think helping investors understand how to analyze the deal if they don't already know how to do that, and then also helping them understand what a good deal looks like in this market, given its constraints and problems that it has.
Okay. And that makes total sense. I mean, why would you get into something that, and I mean, that's on either side, right? Why would you get into buying a home if you're not sure if you can afford it? Or why would you get into an investment if you're not sure if you can afford it? So on that note of, especially for like newer people, if someone was, let's say, looking to get into investing, but didn't know how to run the analysis and do the math and stuff like that, where could they go to learn more about that? It just, anything that's online, or do you have specific tools?
So if anyone wants to know, they're welcome to reach out to me, and we just got to set up a time and we can talk it out, talk about it. I've not done any particular educational seminars about it because the information, there's so much information out there. I would just be one more voice in a crowd of people that talk about real estate investing.
Yeah.
And I don't have that much of a following. So, it's an inconsequential voice. I learned everything on biggerpockets.com. It's the world's largest real estate investing website and real estate investing forum. And literally any question that any person might have about investing could probably find the answers there. Now, it would take time searching through, but they have a great search function, right? So it's not that hard. They do boot camps for people that are interested in getting involved. They have some calculator tools that are built in there that kind of give you, the assumptions that you might want to plug into a calculator. And it shows you some stuff. So, it's a great platform for learning. They have some podcasts that are great. They've got a rookie podcast, which is basically beginner type stuff. So if you're the person if someone's listening to this, they probably like podcasts. That might be a good start for them. And then they have the Bigger Pockets podcast, which is the original podcast that they put out, which is the #1 real estate podcast in the world. And they talk about much higher level stuff, apartment complexes, self-storage, some really sophisticated investing strategies that could really change a person's life if they dedicated themselves to getting into that business.
Okay. So biggerpockets.com.
Yep.
I may have to check that out myself. And is it a free website, or is it like a paid membership, or is it
so it's a great question. You can join the site for free. You can create a profile for free and fill out all the things. They do have some paid membership options that are relatively inexpensive. You can use the calculator, I think, 5 times for free. And then if you want to continue to use the calculator, you have to pay for a membership. But if you run out of your 5, if you contact me on there and you want me to help you run the numbers, I can do it on mine. I've got a paid account, so I can run as many as many reports as I need to. But it's a great resource. The podcasts are a great resource. I spent a lot of time on there. I recently found out that I was the #1 contributor on the Florida Q&A forums here on Bigger Pockets. Yeah, so it was. I just one day I logged in and they were like, "You're the #1 contributor for this forum thread," and I was like, "Oh, well, that's cool."
That's fantastic. So I know who to come to when I have questions down the road. Then that's what I'm
Love it.
hearing, right?
Yeah, let's talk about it. I love talking about real estate and real estate investing. Tell me about your deal. I'd love to chat about it.
I think that's fantastic. Okay, so I want to switch it up a little bit about with you because I know that originally when you started out, you were kind of part time, right? For a little bit, and then decided to go full time. So tell me what that kind of looked like, and what really made you feel like it was time to really take that leap into getting out of the corporate and going full time into real estate.
Yeah, well, so I want to first off say that I actually really enjoyed my job. I worked for an incredible organization. We sold an incredible product that I got to support and partner with our clients to make sure they got the biggest value out of it. And the approach, I worked for a company called the Marcus Buckingham Company, which is actually owned by ADP, the big payroll company.
Okay.
But you know, the Marcus Buckingham Company's mission is essentially to change the world of work, and part of that is in part because of Marcus's work that he has done over the years, trying to understand and help people understand what their strengths are, and then leaning into their strengths and leveraging their strengths to get the most out of themselves in their work and in their lives. And so I took that to heart. I loved the job that I did, but I got my real estate license around the time that I started that job. It was a new job for me.
Oh.
I had started it in May of 2019, and I started taking my real estate course shortly afterwards. And partly was because I had more time at my current job. The job that I had before that, the demand on my time was high, and so now I had a little more, leeway. I wasn't traveling for work anymore, and so I figured that'd be a good time to get a real estate license and actually maybe get to use it. So that was kind of what happened, and I did it part time because I loved it and I had a passion for it, and I felt like a lot of the activities involved were actually strengths of mine, which was something that was being revealed to me through this new job.
Mm-hmm.
And so this new job. And so when I left, it was really a moment of decision for myself because my business had grown to a point where something now had to give. I went fully remote, work from home when COVID happened. And, to be honest with folks, and I've said this on a couple of different occasions, it was actually one of the best things that's happened for me. Now I realize it was a terrible time in our history and a lot of folks were adversely affected. But for me, particularly, it was a great opportunity because I wasn't sitting in a corporate office anymore, pretending to work for 4 hours out of the day.
Yeah.
I was now freed up in between the calls that I had scheduled with clients to try to figure out how to build a business around selling real estate, as I had started to get a small glimpse of success. And so it was a huge blessing for me and my family, just being at home and being able to work from home, because it allowed me to kind of build that business. But I got to a point where something was going to suffer. I wasn't going to be able to give the required time and attention to my day job if I was going to continue to grow my real estate business, or my real estate business was going to have to suffer because I was going to be giving the proper amount of time and dedication to my job. So at the end of the day, my passions and a lot of my strengths revolve in the real estate world. And so I literally went to my boss and said, look, if I believe all the things that we've been telling people, that I've been telling people and learning and teaching over the last 2 years, then I have to go do this thing. And to his credit and the organization's credit, everyone agreed 100% that is true, that you would need to go do that. So it was kind of a unique situation for me, but really rewarding in that capacity.
I love that. And I feel like that's it. It's so hard to find companies that want to grow you to find out what's the best for you. So I love that you had that opportunity to be with someone like that to allow you to figure out what your strengths and your weaknesses were. I think that's something that we struggle with a lot, not only in the real estate world, but in your corporate world or whatever the case may be. And, while COVID was, a huge thing and very traumatic for a lot of people, I also think that it gave a lot of people a different perspective and kind of like a mind shift, or a smack in the face, you could say, of this isn't what you really want to do. So if not, here's your chance. Kind of
Right.
like we've seen such a huge shift of people that, decided that working from home works better from them now, or maybe this job wasn't exactly what they wanted to do. So now I'm going to go try and do something that honestly makes me happier. Well, why not have a career that you can actually enjoy versus one that you're stuck with because it pays the bills?
Right. Well, and that was one of my motivations too. My wife and I, we had put a pretty good plan in place. I had 6 months of reserves saved up, so I could not sell another house for 6 months and we'd be okay. And that's kind of what I needed to do in order to make that jump, because we were a
Mhm.
single income household at that point. Um, but but yeah, I mean, that's exactly right. I knew that, I had made the decision when I got my real estate license that essentially I didn't want to continue to trade my time for money. And
Mhm.
so if I was going to get to a position where I was no longer going to trade my time for money, I needed to win, the Mega Millions jackpot this week. It's like $1 billion,
I'm
or
still working
I
on that one
needed to.
too.
Right, yeah. I need to buy a ticket, but you can't win if you don't play. But but or I was going to need to start to figure out how to generate income for myself, either more passive income through real estate investing, which was really the initial plan, or what it's turned into now, which is building a business, and I'm super excited for it. And I just want to go back to strengths and say that if anyone that's listening to this wants to know what their strength roles are, or the way that they naturally show up in any given situation, they can actually take the strengths assessment that was developed by Marcus Buckingham for free. And I don't know how long it's going to be going on for, but if they go to marcusbuckingham.com/, the gift of standout, I think is what it is. Or if you just Google that, you should be able to get a link to go take that assessment for free. And it's something that every single person that joins my real estate team does. They take their strengths assessment, they forward me the report, we talk about it, and then I actually pay for them to have a 1 hour debrief with a certified strengths debrief coach to actually go through that strengths report and help them understand it, or internalize it, and start
Mhm.
shifting their mindset around what are my strengths, what are the activities that I love doing. Um, because if we can figure out how that fits into what we do in helping people buy and sell real estate, then they're going to love what they do, and they're going to make a lot of money. And
Yeah.
I want that for them. I want that for everyone that partners with me to get that opportunity to discover, how they show up to other people, and then how to leverage that to really be an incredible force in their business and in their lives.
I absolutely love that. I feel like that is such a I don't know, that's such a piece of cake, right? Or a piece of pie, something that's missing that a lot of people they're not aware of, or people don't take the time to use that to figure out where the people that they want to be in business are, where their strengths are. I think that's absolutely fantastic. So now you tell me a little bit more about this. So how does that help with your team members and like figuring out who's right for your team, and what are some of the moments or the breakthroughs that you've seen your team members have by going through this assessment and really learning what their strengths are?
Yeah, so some of it's a little early. This is something new that we started doing this year, and so I don't know that I have any specific examples on how it's impacting their daily lives. What I
Mhm.
will tell you is that it's not a qualification for joining our team. It's unlike a disc profile where if you're a high D, we're not going to get along, so you're not allowed, right? Which I'm not saying that that's the case. I'm just using it as an example, right?
Yeah.
It's not a qualification tool. It doesn't determine whether or not you'd be a good real estate agent, or whether or not you'd be a good fit for our team. I don't care what your strength roles are. You should care what your strength roles are. Now, if I know what your strength roles are, then when you react differently than me, which I am a stimulator advisor. Actually, I'm an advisor stimulator, and what that says about me, so you'll get my whole
Yeah. Yeah.
spiel.
Definitely.
What that tells you about me, or what that should mean to you, is that I love giving people advice, I love it, which is why I like doing podcasts, right? I'm also attuned to other people's energy. That's the stimulator part of me. I understand where the energy is at in the room. Sometimes I'll bring my energy down to match. Sometimes I bring the energy up to raise the energy, right? And I love being in front of a group of people. The odd thing is that if you put me in a room full of strangers, I'll stand in the corner quietly because I want to understand what's going on and see where the energy is. And then I'll finally find somebody to connect with and kind of match their energy until things happen. But if you give me a wingman who's like a total extrovert and they're like, hey, hi, how's it going? Right. I will hang with that person and I will have great conversations. So it's really interesting that way. But it means that I love giving people advice, oftentimes unsolicited, like people that are in restaurants talking about real estate. I'm sorry, did you say something, Lauren? No, don't buy that house. So I think that's what's cool is it helps people truly understand a little bit better how they show up and how they show up to other people. And then, for other people that understand the roles and kind of how the roles interact and some of the natural tendencies of that role, they can be better at it. Right. Because I'm an advisor stimulator, I tend to make split second decisions. Like it doesn't take me a lot. I'm a verbal processor. So as I talk, I'm coming up with what I'm going to say next. There are people that terrifies them.
Yeah.
And they're a creator for to take time and internalize it. And then they're going to build this big thing out of it. But they need a lot of time to process all this information. And I'm different than that. So when I, present a bunch of information to a creator and then say, okay, what do you want? Like they're put off by that, right? I'm like, what do you think? They're like, oh, they don't want to, but if I give them time to process it, think about it, and then come back to me, they'll probably come back with some really rich ideas. And so understanding that about your people that work with you or your partners, along with understanding yourself, can go a long way. So like, I know that I pulled back from giving unsolicited advice to strangers at restaurants.
I love that. I've done that so many times, like in the grocery store, staying in line. I'm like, I'm sorry, what did you say? I heard that you were talking about, I'm so sorry to butt in. But I'm the same way. Like I used to be that person that just kind of like came in and talked to everybody. And what I've learned is that I do enjoy kind of sitting back in that room of strangers and kind of watching and finding who I can connect with so that I can have a better conversation, a deeper conversation, right? Someone I can really relate to, because I'm really big on deeper conversation and connection. Surface things it doesn't motivate me. It's not a huge thing for me, right? We can talk about the sky and stuff all day, but when you start talking about people's mindsets and learning who people are, then I'm like, oh, I'm right here. Like put me in the front seat and let's go. Like and that's one of the things that I love about and it's something that I implemented in my business for the consulting side is when I work with people, especially those that are building teams, is having a conversation with every one of those people to really assess like, okay, so you're a checklist person, you're very organized, and that's just how you function. But your team lead is complete opposite. They're a brain dumper, right? They just like to throw everything at you, and this is what it is. Well, for someone that's very organized and enjoys their tasks, that can be extremely overwhelming. But understanding those differences and then figuring out where you can bring the two together so that they both understand. And now we have a system that we can work off of that works for both. That's what it's all about, is really understanding who the person is, not expecting them to understand your perspective or your take on it, because that's just how I am. Understand, why can't you see it? Like I love that you take the time for that, because I feel like that's something that if we as a collective as whole like focused on that a lot more, I think we would have a lot less anger and aggression out there, because there would be more understanding. And it simply does come down to communication as well, right? Asking more questions, talking to people, saying, hey, I don't understand what you mean. This is what I think you mean. Can you clarify for me? Like that makes a world of difference. And it took like 2 extra seconds to ask.
Well, and being a team leader or being a leader in general in any industry, I think it's so important to understand where your people are, where they come from, and also how do they like to be recognized, right? Because there are some people that want to be called up in front of the entire office and given an award and patted on the back. And then there are some people that would really rather you just send them a gift card and a nice handwritten note, right? And to
Yeah.
them, that would mean the world. And
Yep.
you're not going to know that without having conversations, without asking, without communicating, without giving them an opportunity to discover their strengths and their strength roles. And so that's part of the reason why we do that.
I love it. And honestly, I mean that rolls into how you deal with your clients as well. Like for example, I had a client that I closed and she's fantastic and loved to talk, but her sister who was coming down is the complete opposite. She's very introverted. She doesn't care to be on the phone. And she even told me, and so did her sister, like, I just prefer text. Like I prefer it that way. I'm more confident. I was like, fine. So all communication basically from the time she started looking for a home till she just went under contract yesterday has literally all been through text and a couple of voice messages when I have way too much to say because I'm a talker. But that worked for her. And we've had a fantastic conversation because I know that that makes her more comfortable versus calling her and getting her anxious and getting her on the phone just so I can feel better knowing that, oh, I called you, So I feel like that rolls into understanding your clients as well. And I think as agents, if we understood that better, we would be able to work with our clients.
I'm chuckling because I had a friend who's very much an introvert. And when he was buying a house, it was before I was licensed. He was like, the agent always calls me, always wants to get me on the phone. I'm like, no, I don't want to talk on the phone. Just text me, please. But she still wants to call me. And I just remember him constantly saying that. And I thought to myself, well, I mean, I would probably want to talk on the phone too. But I also, like, now that I've worked with clients, I also understand sometimes that is actually counterproductive, especially if there's any kind of language barrier. So
Yes, definitely. And I found, and someone actually introduced me to this for those that don't know how to work it on their phone. There's an app called Voxer, Voxer, and it literally works just like an app on your phone, but you can send voice messages. So for some people's like clients that I have, consulting clients and stuff like that, I can just send them messages back and forth there if they don't know how to work the voice thing on their phone, or if it's easier. And you can still share files, you can share pictures, you can still send text messages, but it's just learning that different way of communication, and understanding how you communicate as well, and letting people know that. And then assessing, like, are you okay with that? If not, like, that's fine. Just let me know, because like for me, I know that I'm a talker, and I know if you get me on the phone and I'm not doing things, I'm probably going to have a full conversation in 6 different directions with you. It is what it is. But I absolutely love that. So I thank you so much. Like, I'm going to have to go look up this, Marcus Buckingham's. I'm going to have to go
The
look
Gift
up
of Standout. Yeah.
The Gift of
MarcusBuckingham.com, The Gift of Standout.
Okay, I'm going to have to go check that out because I think that's fantastic. And I love looking at the different tests. I've done the DISC profiles and all that.
And if you want to do a debrief, I got a guy that can do it for you for $100. So
okay. Yeah, thank you. So
he's a certified coach with the International Coaching Federation. So he's a certified life coach with business and life coach with the International Coaching Federation with this additional certification in debriefs. So
I love that. Yeah, I may definitely have to hit you up then about that. So let me ask you. I've got 2 questions for you then that I always like to end with.
Let's do it.
One of those is what's one tip, trick, or some piece of advice that you could give to someone that could take away today, whether it's business, personal, whatever you'd like to hit.
Discover what your strengths are and lean into them.
Definitely.
Period. End of story.
That's so true. I feel like I took so long to really dive into my strengths. Like, I kind of knew what it was in the corporate world, but it always gets shoved down because they need you to fit a box. So I do. I love that. And then the other thing is there one phrase or saying or something of positivity that you think could impact people? I love ending on positivity.
Man. I don't know. I mean, I've read so many great things recently. Whatever you tell yourself is the truth. So tell yourself good things, and that'll be the truth. Living belief is a real thing, and I experienced it up until I decided that I wasn't going to be like that anymore. So, tell yourself good things.
I love that. I actually just did a small segment on my personal page about self-talk and how important it is. And the way that you speak about yourself and how you speak to other people about yourself really does affect you personally, even on the smallest level. I love that. So, well, thank you so much for all of your information, Tyler. Tell us where can we find you? Where can people follow you? Where can they get information from you in case they want to touch base?
Yeah, so you can find me on Facebook, Tyler Gibson 84. You can find me on Instagram, real_Tyler Gibson. And then I've got Linktree links there to all the other places where I have stuff. So
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much, Tyler. I had a fantastic time. So, and to everybody else, make sure that you give yourself a piece of positivity. Be proud of yourself, something that you did today. And until next time, we will see you later. Hello again, and thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. If you absolutely love what you heard, please be sure to share, subscribe, and don't forget to leave me a comment or review so that I can keep the good stuff rolling. If you haven't yet connected with me on social media, be sure to follow along at Agent Services Plus. I am so excited to connect with you until the next episode. And until next time, be sure to find something that helps you learn, grow, and be inspired.